Tambutso Mnangagwa has been exposed on how actually he intended to use Sengezo Tshabangu. And I must say, an institution of Matepeleland which has been vocal when it comes to Kukurawundi genocide, to actually launch a fake constitutional bid against Mnangagwa's 2030 term extension. And then, as we have actually been previously conscientized, the Constitutional Court lawyers, obviously led by a tainted judge that is loyal to Emmerson Tambutso Mnangagwa, will dismiss that bid, and then giving the Mnangagwa faction a leverage to continue pursuing 2030 agenda. Greetings and welcome to your lovely channel, the Hlonipani Global News. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. So we'll actually quote Hopewell Chinono on this particular matter, because he's the one who came with the case. It began with this. Listen to this, and I'll read. Actually, they have been twisted about to this particular matter. And at the center of this reveals how Emmerson Tambutso Mnangagwa have been working behind the scenes and also his faction to try and sanitize the 2030 term extension bid. So Hopewell Chinono wrote the following about 2 hours ago. I've been made aware by the judicial of allegations that two Bulawayo-based applications have been identified two Bulawayo-based applicants have been identified to file a constitutional application intended to be dismissed in order to advance the 2030 agenda. They are Mbuso Fuzwayo as the first applicant and likazulu as the second applicant. My judicial resources said that the application was prepared by a young advocate and that the advocate is connected to one Itai Nzuzo. Itai Nzuzo is the current Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution for Mashonaland East and ZANU-PF Member of Parliament. The same province where President Mnangagwa's 2030 cheerleader Daniel Gawe is the ZANU-PF chairman. The basis of this application is to go to the court and argue that 2030 is illegal. However, the real intention is not to have the court agree with that position, but rather to have the court dismiss the application. Once the court dismisses it, that dismissal becomes a legal precedent establishing that 2030 can lawfully go ahead. In other words, they are deliberately applying for something opposite to what they truly want in order to create a judicial record supporting their political agenda. This tactic of using courts to elicit a ruling to advance a political agenda is not new. Mnangagwa's side has used it many times before. They did, for instance, send a law student from the University of Zimbabwe to file a court challenge against the appointment process of a Chief Justice. Romeo Taomera Zibani from University of Zimbabwe suddenly filed a court application seeking to stop the JSEC interviews for the Chief Justice, arguing that the process was unconstitutional and that the president should appoint the Chief Justice directly. The High Court, in a move that shocked the legal fraternity, ruled in Zibani's favor, supporting the argument to give the president unilateral power to appoint the Chief Justice in order to advance a political agenda, to have Justice George Mutandwa Chiwenga appointed. It is a classic manipulation of the legal system, using courts not to seek justice but to manufacture legitimacy. The claims follow recent warnings about the contemplated pursuit of such measures, and if that warning is anything to go by, these allegations are to be treated seriously. President Mnangagwa's supporters, sorry, we are finally back. I don't know, it was the network, and I will just continue. The moment I watched, I discovered that I was offline. Apologies to that, but I will continue. So I hope you got the first, discussion whereby I was revealing that Hopewell Chinono initially reported that there was a case which was to be filed with the Constitutional Court, and he name dropped the name of Mbuso Fuzwayo as well as Ibhetshu likazulu. 1 hour ago, Hopewell Chinono also came back, and this is what he wrote. It's just a little bit of a twist. He was not lying from the beginning, but it's a little bit of the twist. But the story appears to be true, however, with a little bit of the twist. So he wrote, I have just spoken to Mbuso Fuzwayo of Ibhetshu likazulu, and he confirmed to me that he was approached by Sengezo Tshabangu's lawyer, Ngobani Sitole, to front the constitutional application. He told me that he was not aware of the nefarious agenda behind it at the time. According to him, he was informed that the final application was still being polished and would later be brought to him to sign on behalf of himself and his organization. However, Mbuso Fuzwayo made it clear to me that he will not be signing the application. He has since become aware of the broader scheme behind it, that the case was designed to go to court under the guise of challenging the 2030 agenda, but with a predetermined outcome ensuring its dismissal. Dismissal would then be used as a political and legal basis to justify and legitimize an unconstitutional extension of President Mnangagwa's term to 2030. The revelation adds credibility to the growing concern that the courts are being used not of justice but as tools to manufacture legality for political ambitions and forced consent. It is now clear that after losing the political argument for 2030 in the court of public opinion, the drivers of this agenda have now turned to the courts as their next weapon. Their strategy is to secure a ruling that, while unconstitutional, will still carry the weight and appearance of legality. Once obtained, that ruling will be used to justify and advance their political project of extending President Mnangagwa's term to 2030. The tactic mirrors previous maneuvers where the judiciary was manipulated to produce outcomes that saved political ends rather than justice. It represents a dangerous trend in which the law is twisted to manufacture legitimacy, eroding public trust in the courts and turning them into instruments of political expediency rather than constitutional guardianship. So these are the revelations. So at least Hopewell Chinono did well by coming out publicly. Just imagine if it did not come out, this constitutional court application was going to go ahead. And also, I think this should be a warning to especially organizations. Don't just allow to be used to front a case without actually thorough investigations. And if that case is not coming to you from your organization, ask yourself why so much interest to actually align with your organization to do so. So, I know they might have approached Ibhetshu likazulu genuinely, and as people who know the leaders of Ibhetshu likazulu, and just imagine using Ibhetshu, likazulu, an organization that has been vocal to actually confront Emmerson Tambutso Mnangagwa comes to Kukuraunde genocide massacres, to actually push the 2030 agenda unknowingly, because they were not going to be aware. Also, I think this speaks volumes to the other side's intelligence system in terms of picking out these issues and alerting the members of the public. I've told you that this fight against Mnangagwa is winnable, especially if we have people who understand ZANU-PF. Now, ZANU-PF of Mnangagwa is fighting with people who have been in the system, who knows how Emmerson Tambutso Mnangagwa operates. Just imagine if it was the opposition political party, it was just going to see things unfolding and people were going to end up fighting, only to realize at a later stage that they have been aiding someone whom they have been speaking against for so many years. So it's good that Mbuso Fuzwa has now made it clear that, of course, he confirmed he was approached to petition to actually front this application, but it wasn't brought in a manner that he would be advancing the 2030 interest of Emmerson Tambutso Mnangagwa. To him, it was brought as a genuine legal challenge against Mnangagwa's extension of his term. And most probably, they might have told him that this will put your organization at the world map. Everybody would be focusing on you, not knowing that this was a fake. Mnangagwa looked for someone, looked for an organization of which people were going, we were going to exactly the strategy that he used when he brought Sengezo Tshabangu. Remember, Sengezo Tshabangu came through, we were not knowing, we are not part of ZANU-PF. When he came through as someone who he complained about, people of Matebeleland being excluded in positions of being MPs and councillors. And it resonated, with the people of Matebeleland initially when Sengezo Tshabangu came through. We were not aware of the grand strategy of Sengezo Tshabangu, of what actually, who he was. And I'm sure a lot of Zimbabweans were not aware. We thought maybe this was an internal squabble within the citizens' coalition for change. And I think things are becoming clearer and more clearer today. We thank God for the Blessed Geza revolution, because it has actually revealed a lot of things we didn't know. The opposition that did not know, now they are out there in the public. And I can tell you, all this frustrates the plans of Emmerson Tambutso Mnangagwa to continue pushing his 2030 agenda. And it makes it so difficult. And I think when he looks at this, especially today's expose, I'm sure they are now aware of what is happening. They see that the other, of course, Blessed Geza is keeping quiet, but look at what is happening. Because of the knowledge that he has actually put out there. He didn't call Sengezo Tshabangu a charlatan for nothing. That old man knows a lot of things. He understands how the system works. That is why I have always advanced that it's good, especially if we want to win this 2030 mantra, to make it a, if those who knows the system are fighting against this, it's good to be guided by them, because they have got the wisdom, they have the know-how of how the system operates. And these people can have the antidote of stopping the very same system. Thank you very much for watching us. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember, press the red or black subscribe button, so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. You can financially support this channel by pressing the join button and be part of our members who are the heartbeat of this channel. You can equally do so by pressing the thanks button and send us stars. Okay, Umhlaban is signing off. Let me love